Hello everybody. So I recently posted a tutorial doing a cross-stitch binding to bind new paper into a vintage book, and I realized that the stitching can be a little bit complicated, so I wanted to make another video of binding a book using a simple straight stitch, which I think might be more straightforward. So I've taken an old book that I found in recycling and taken out the text block by cutting along the two edges here and just removing the whole text block. And I have the junk papers that I'm going to be binding into the book. And I need to reinforce the spine, so I'm going to use a little piece of fabric glued in here with fabric glue, and that will be our first step. And so for that, I'm gonna just put a good layer of glue here and then also along the edge here. And then glue in this piece of fabric. I tend to use cotton fabric, ripped up pieces of old sheets, trying to center it a bit, and then really trying to rub it into the corners here. And this dries pretty quickly. This is Fabri-Tac. There's also another brand called Fabri-Fix. Any kind of fabric glue will work pretty well to kind of stick that all down. And then while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to take all of the folded papers. I sort of made a template of, how big I wanted it, and then made sure that the total amount of paper I have is the right amount for my book. I'm going to be making art in it, so it's going to expand, so I don't want to put too many papers in there. So while this is drying, I'm going to put my paper into 3 signatures. I have a template which is the same width of my spine with my markings here. And so I'll wait for this to dry, put my papers together, and we'll move on. All right, so this is reasonably dry. My next step is going to be to punch the holes in my template, and for that I'm going to put my mat underneath and also put a piece of cardboard underneath, which will make it easier to punch into. And you can do this either, on the inside or on the outside. And I'm just going to put this here. You can add a little bit of washi tape if you want to try to stick it down a little bit more so that the template won't slide. So I'm going to try to make that even side to side and then top to bottom, and put my tape in between so I'm not right on top of some of these dots. And then I'm going to use my awl, and instead of going straight down, what helps is to put the tip right where the marking is and then turn up and move in, and that tends to give you straighter holes. So we're going to do that for all of these. It's all done. I'm going to save this because I'm going to use this for the next step when I poke my signatures. First, I'm just going to widen all of these holes. All right, so next I'm going to take my first signature. I'm going to fold this template along any of these lines of holes, and then I'm going to slide that inside and put it even from top to bottom, and then use my awl to punch through, straight through, so that I see it on the other side right into the corner. And then I'll do that for the other two signatures. When you're starting out, it may help you when you're selecting your papers to have a lighter or white paper on the inside so that you can, and on the outside of your signature, so that you can more easily see the holes that you make. If you have dark patterned paper, sometimes it's harder to see where your holes are. And then my last one here. Okay. All right. So we've got everything punched. Next up is our sewing. All right, so I usually will choose a contrasting thread just to make it stand out more. So I've got this bright green one, and each of the signatures is going to be stitched inside the cover one at a time. So for each signature, I just need probably just 2 lengths, but I always like to do a little extra when I'm starting, just so I make sure I have enough. And I've got my needle with kind of a big eye, sort of a tapestry or embroidery needle. And I'm just putting it on with a few inches extra, so you're not doubling it or knotting it. I'm going to take my first signature, and I'm going to go from the inside through, and then through into the top hole in the top left, or that first signature. So I'm going to come almost all the way through, and then I'm just going to clip this little edge under my clip so that it doesn't pull through, and make sure that that's tight. And then I'm just going to come down into the next hole, through my cover, and then through the signature, back into here. And then I'm going to tie a knot just after this first stitch so that I can make sure this is all tightened down. So I'm going to take this end out, and then we're just going to tie a square knot where I go left over right, and then hold my finger down, and then right over left to make a square knot there. And then I can trim off the little short edge here, and then I'm going to go down to my next hole and come out through the hole in the signature, there, out through here. And then basically we're just going to go in and out all the way down here. So I'm going to go down into the next hole and through the signature. And then pull tight, and you want to try to, pull up rather than pulling straight down, because you can tear your holes. I'm going to go back out, and then back out through the hole in the cover. And then back into my last hole here, and out through. Now at this point you have a choice. I can just tie off here, and I'll show you how to do that, or I can come back through again the other way like a figure of 8, coming out here back in to make a continuous line. I personally like the way this looks, but you can always come back to the top and tie off as long as you have enough thread. So now I'm going to tie off here in a half hitch knot. So I'm going to come through this stitch, pull down, come through again, and then go back through that loop I just created and pull tight. And then I'll do a second knot, just one time through, and then back the other way through that loop, and then pull down. And that will anchor my stitches, and I will trim off here. You can trim these even shorter. Since it's waxed thread, you can kind of push it down a little. I'm going to take my clip off, and my first signature is in. So I'm going to kind of press down. You can use a bone folder to press down, but that's in. Now I can use different colors for each of these. I'm just going to use the same color. I'm going to again get another 2 and probably just 2.5 will be enough, since I did have some extra that first time around. And again, going to come through, and then I'm just going to do the exact same thing, bringing my second signature in this second column of holes, in through the first hole, anchor my thread, and then go back in, and then into the second signature, second hole of the second signature, I would say. Now sometimes your pages can get a little skewed, so you can kind of run the needle along the paper till you find the hole and push back out the other way, just to reorganize all those papers there, and then back in through that second hole. And then just after this first stitch, we're gonna get all the way through. Oh boy, I have a lot of papers here and a hole that, there we go. Okay, so we're gonna pull it all the way through, undo that, make sure that we are tight on the outside, and then again, right, left over right, put your finger down, and then right over left to make that first knot. And then we'll do the same thing again. Now, one thing you can do if you want to be more decorative when you put in these different rows is actually when you come out of one, you can actually loop down through the prior one and then come back in, and that creates more of a kind of cross kind of pattern. You also, instead, if you want to, when you come out, you can actually put beads onto this and then come back into the next hole. You just need a bead that's big enough to go over your the eye of your needle. So there's lots of different fun things you can do with those. So I'll just try to get through these last few here. Just tighten up, and then we'll do our last half hitch knot, which is the knot when you only have one thread, where you go back up, pull down, go through a second time, and then back through the loop that you made, and then pull down, and then a second one where you go through once and pull down, and trim off. And our book is done. So I hope that was simple enough. Hope to inspire you to take apart an old book and make a journal. And obviously, you can use plain paper for this. You can cover with an end paper if you don't like this fabric edge. You can really play with it a lot. So have a great day. Thanks.